of the universe. The second argument we've posed is that Allah makes sense of the design of the universe. And we give a very simple example with the mobile phone. Now, I want to give you another argument, which is the Quran itself. Because I believe the Quran is a proof for the existence of Allah. Because if you could prove this book is from the divine, or you can't find any natural reason for this book, you can't explain it naturally, you can't explain it came from a man, you can't explain it came from anything intelligent within the material world, then the best explanation is it came from the supernatural. The best explanation is that it came from the divine. Now let me explain this for you. We know the Quran is an intrusive book. It's a very special book, brothers and sisters. Because the Quran is the only religious book that seeks to engage with your aql, with your intellect. It seeks to engage with your nafsiyah, with your disposition, with your psychology, with your heart, with your soul, with your fitrah, with your natural state. And the Quran does this in a forceful way. But this forcefulness is not negative. It's very positive. Because it does this and it achieves this by answering profound questions. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And within themselves, do they not see? أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not reflect within themselves? أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Have you not seen the camel and how it was created? وَكَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And thus to explain our signs and evidences in detail for those who reflect. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Coming from the Arabic triliteral stem, the root of Arabic, فَكَرَى, which we know according to the classical dictionaries has a meaning of the thing that you're reflecting upon. Don't do it in a shallow way. The thing that you're reflecting upon, be deep. Understand the implication of what this thing is. What does it mean? So the Quran calls for deep thinking. So we see the Quran is a book for a thinking human being. It encourages thinking. It really plays with our mind with good questions about man, life, and the universe. And it also gives us things to think about our own self, reflecting within ourselves. Now you may think, wow, amazing book. An atheist might say, that's a very interesting book. It makes you think. It asks questions. It doesn't say believe just because I said so. It's not based on blind faith. But the Quran goes even further than this, brothers and sisters. It goes even further than this. As the Quran says in Surah Baqarah verse 23, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. And if you are in doubt, look, the Quran is talking to the doubters, the skeptics, the atheists, the humanists, the philosophers, the scientists, the thinkers. Everybody. If you're in doubt about this book that we have revealed to our servant, referring to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then bring one chapter like it. One chapter. And call on your witnesses and your supporters besides Allah, if you are truthful, in kuntum sadiqeen, if you're truthful in your claim. And we know the original background to this verse, the explanation, according to the Mufassirun, like we have chains of narration related to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, Qurtubi, Ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Kathir, Tafsir al-Jalalain. We have an ijma'a of the ulama that this verse has something to do with the language of the Quran, the uniqueness, the brilliance, the eloquence, the peak of eloquence, the sea of rhetoric of the Quran itself. Because we know 1400 years ago, when the Quran was revealed, it was revealed upon a people who were the best at expressing themselves in the Arabic tongue. This is why the Orientalists, those people who studied Islam and the Oriental sciences, claimed that the people 1400 years ago were Arabic linguists par excellence, which basically means they were the best. This is why the historian Ibn Rashiq, he writes that the socialization of society was built so much that they would celebrate on two things: the birth of a boy and when a poet rose amongst them. A poet rose amongst them. And the Quran came down to challenge them and said, if you don't think it's from the divine, then bring something like the Quran. And they all failed. This is why Walid ibn al-Mughira, the most famous poet of the time, claimed and exclaimed, by Allah, this is not from a human being. This is what he said. He even swore by Allah. And the reason we know the Quran is truly something that cannot be matched. In technical language, it means inimitable. You cannot imitate its language. You cannot imitate its form. The reason for this is because the Quran has a unique form. It's not like Shakespeare. Who's heard of Shakespeare? Put your hand up. Okay, also known as Sheikh Zabur. Yeah? So Sheikh Zabur, for example, you may like some of his stuff based on subjective experience. For example, O Romeo, wherefore art thou, O Romeo, deny thy father and deny thy name. In Romeo and Juliet. Or you can make it more Islamic. O Abdullah, deny thy mother, deny thy tribe. Yeah? The point I'm trying to say is that it's not based on how we appreciate the language. The Quran is an eloquent book. It is a peak of eloquence. But it's also unique in the mechanics of the language, the form of the language. This is why the Orientalist A.J. Arbery, he said the Quran is a unique fusion of poetry and prose. Because the Quran cannot be described as poetry, because it doesn't conform to any of the Arabic rhythmical patterns called al-bihar. We also know it cannot be prose, because it's not straightforward speech, and it's not rhyme prose. Rather, it's Quran. This is why David J. Stewart, which is the only Orientalist of our modern times discussing the unique form of the Quran, says the Quran is none of these things. It's unique. This is why it hasn't been matched. Now you may think, I have to know Arabic to appreciate this. I have to know Arabic to know that the Quran is a linguistic miracle. No, you don't. And I want you to take this journey with me. I want you guys to put your hand up if you believe that Greece as a country exists. We all believe that Greece exists. I ask you a question. How do you know? Who's been to Greece before? Oh my God, none of you have been to Greece before? But you believe Greece exists? Now you may say, but I've seen it on a map, Hamza. Okay, so if I took this book and imagine it's a map, and I drew a map, and in the Pacific Ocean, I put a triangle. And on that triangle I said, this is the island, and it's called Fufula. And I'm from the island, I'm a Fufulonian. Would you believe me? Now, have you spoken to a Greek person before? In Greece? No. So how do you know, brothers? You have yaqeen. You have certainty that Greece does exist. How do you know? Videos. So if I made a video of the Fufulonians, yeah, would you believe me? Just because you saw a video? Maybe it's a mass conspiracy, akhi. On YouTube. Even on YouTube, if we did a video on YouTube saying, for example, I'm Chinese. 你很漂亮. 我喜欢英国茶. 我们出去当了. Would you believe me that I'm Chinese? Just because I make that claim? So what? So why? Why on earth do you believe that Greece exists? Social studies? According to social studies, I'm a terrorist, man. You're going to believe I'm a terrorist? So why do we believe Greece exists? Sorry? You're close. The uncle was talking about the certain knowledge. But how do we know? Yes. MashaAllah, takbir. You are a sheikh? MashaAllah. Very, very good. The uncle was saying it's tawatur, which basically means it's the science of mutawatir reporting, which is recurrent reporting. It's basically testimony. It's been testified by so many different people at different times and places that never met each other. To claim Greece doesn't exist would be claiming a mass conspiracy. This is why, for example, C.A. Cody in his book Testimony, he raises this issue and says, we don't even truly know that the world is round. But we know we'll be mad if we claim it's flat. Because you've never felt the world before, have you? Or you've seen it on a map, but that's secondary sources. How do you know it's not like a fake globe? Do you see? You may see the mathematics, but you may not even understand it. We agree with it because it's tawatur, it's recurrent reporting, it's mass testimony. Now, what I'm going to do now, brothers and sisters, is for you to reject the Qur'an will be equivalent of rejecting that Greece exists. Because the Qur'an is also upon tawatur. The Qur'an is also based on mutawatir reporting. And what is the testimony of Muslim and non-Muslim scholars regarding the Qur'an? Basically, it's about that the Qur'an has never been successfully challenged. The Qur'an has never been successfully challenged, as Arbuthnot, Fitzgerald Arbuthnot, the Orientalist and British translator, he said, although several attempts have been made to challenge the Qur'an, none have yet succeeded. And we know many, even non-Muslims, agree with this. For example, Bruce Lawrence, Professor Bruce Lawrence from Duke University, in his book, The Qur'an, a Biography, on page number 8, he says the Qur'an, as tangible signs, are expressive of an inexhaustible truth. They signify meaning, layered within meaning, light upon light, miracle after miracle. Dr. Martin Zammit from the Netherlands, he said the Qur'an is the most eminent written manifestation of the Arabic language. Reverend R. Bosworth Smith, in his book Muhammad and Mohammedanism, said, the Qur'an is a miracle of purity of style, of wisdom and of truth. It is one miracle claimed by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a miracle indeed it is. So there's testimony here. And we know there's testimony from the Muslim sources as well. There's the ijma' on this issue. So from this testimony, how do you know it's from the divine? So let's recap again. The tawatur, the mutawatir report, the mass testimony is no one has been able to challenge the Qur'an. So let's logically find out who it could be from.